So yeah, no, game's not over. Worry is being captured by the spiders, but of course a flimsy web is not enough to hold a horseman. Not sure what they were thinking.
You think maybe we should put him in there so we can eat him, but no, I guess they figured
Remember what
let's leave
Sama
him there.
said?
Oh,
We just
right, true. The spider does tend to like to get info from those
Yeah,
she can.
stories,
we
quote
just
unquote.
we just put him in that because it was funny.
Alright, this is kinda sorta your wind temple, believe it or not.
It sounds windy enough. Also, of course, since it's a spider-ridden place, you have the creepy piano.
Yeah. Also, I know that they are supposed to be webs, but all of these white sticky stuff going around is not very pleasant.
Oh my.
Especially because some of these is tied to, you're able to see two doors that you need to open. Ew.
Lovely.
Oh, hi, yeah, watch her.
Do anything against
Oh.
all dark and gruesome yet. Best to avoid it for now.
How nice of you.
I mean, remember, the Watcher is the equivalent of Navi in for this game. He still, wants to be an asshole and taunt war as much as he can, but at the end of the day, he, still needs to help, him going around through the quest. So what you need to do is to activate for now the Chronosphere and move on. We'll have to deal with this guy later.
Hi, bye.
Bye then.
Is he asleep or something?
No, it was just waiting to pounce, but because I activated the Chronosphere, I was able to move in time.
Yeah. I guess he can't come down and chase us because he's lazy.
Well, to an extent, yeah. So yeah, not much more to say about this because again, it's a very straightforward type of dungeon. It's actually one of the shorter of the bunch, mercifully so. Especially because it's sandwiched between again, okay, both this and the Earth one that we passed through with the Stygian. Those are basically your briefer kind of level because again, we had the cathedral, which was the fire temple equivalent, and then the subway, the water one, and the dungeon that we're gonna get after this one is gonna be quite a marathon to go through, so it's just the game having a bit of a mercy on you. It still again doesn't come close to how Darksiders 2 loves to splice its dungeons, but again, it's a story for another time.
Oh, so that sounds like that could either be amazing or a match made in hell.
Well, not necessary for commenting on, because I have, I tend to, put in consideration for the audience anyway, but just to convey, yes.
Is there a make-your-own dungeon sort of game? I wonder.
Not now, as far as I know.
Because I've seen a lot of villain-type simulators, but never one where you can make your own dungeon.
Oh, tied to this franchise? No, but yes, in general, yes, Jova, there was, of course, the one and only Dungeon Keeper, before
Beautiful, yeah.
before EA managed to fuck it up, because of course they did. And then there was one of the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles spin-offs, My Life as a King and My Life as a Dark Lord, which were all entirely about, build the dungeon. And more recently there was stuff like Evil Genius, for example. So...
That was nice.
Evil Genius is basically you being a Bond villain, so... Alright, for this occasion you need to break the sacks in order to squash the spiders inside you. And then use the ramp as a ramp, as they suggest, in order to reach, if I recall correctly, one of the Beholder's key, which is in the treasure upward. If I recall correctly, the lever raises or lowers another chronosphere that I can use because it's more of a case of, oh, the platform raises naturally with your weight, but if you're in slow-mo, it magically manages to, you know, sustain your weight enough. I also don't understand much about this particular game balance where the little spiders can be very easily squashed in one hit because they're, you know, grabbable, like the smaller enemies. But when it comes to regular hitting, they have quite a bit of HP. So, you know, it's just better to just, you know, bait them on the ground and then squash them compared to what I'm doing now.
Of course.
There you go. In case you're wondering, no, I have no idea what real-life location this is supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be an hospital, but we really have deviated a lot from the initial New York City setting, so this could be, I don't know, like, not too far, but still probably not in the main city anymore.
I do wonder if this was part of the plan, or if at some point they kind of lost the focus that, hey, this is supposed to be an apocalypse-ridden city.
Yeah, pretty much. But to be fair, even at the beginning, they do not really mention about what city you're supposed to be in. It just looks like Times Square, the initial scene, so that's why you assume that it might be New York. But the important part is more the fact of, you know, in the post-apocalypse, you know, something that would be fairly common for the humans becomes a more intricate dungeon when transformed by the demons and, you know, traversed by someone like an Horseman. It's kind of a bit similar to the thought process that, like I think I mentioned, that Nier and the Horizon games had.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, for this occasion, if I recall correctly, you need to use the block of stones to be grabbed by the hungry graboid there, in order to, there you go, let it grab, and then you have to eat it so that it releases in order to hit the spider that is right down below us, because that way, here you go, we'll be managing to pass through.
It's like, it looks like their bodies are coming out of the bell shape there.
Coming out of their bells.
Yes, Dribs. The bells of Notre Dame.
Alright, new variant of the skeleton. This time it's super possessed. I don't know what the green flame is supposed to mean. The important part is more powerful enemy you have to deal with. I think I mentioned already in the previous parts, but just to mention, I haven't showcased much in terms of the special powders that you acquire, because, like I said, I argue they're not particularly well balanced for this game. Not to say that they're completely useless, but here's the thing. The one that you have for starters, you might have shown the attack where gems is placed into the ground and a bunch of mini blades, you know, sprout around him, you know, crowd control and stuff, is useful for some minor crowd control, even if replenishing your yellow power meter is a bit cumbersome. But even just upgrading it, if not, you know, getting the new one, costs a lot at the Bullgrim shop stations, and you might as well just spend your souls, you know, upgrading the regular combat maneuver. That is to say, there is enough creativity when it comes to the other powers. One toughens, you know, war skin in order to become more resistant to knockback and take less damage, for example. Another has an aura of poison around him, possibly a remnants to pestilence, callback and everything. So there was some thought put into it, but unfortunately, because of the way they're balanced, and some of them can even cost quite a bit in terms of yellow energy, they really are not worthy to find your way to get them.
I think we're in the remnants of an apartment alleyway by the looks of it.
It's an hospital complex. It's not super viewable. It's not immediately viewable, but a lot of the internal rooms did have stuff like gurneys and other places. Maybe it's a complex of buildings which did include also an hospital.
Kind of a missed opportunity for this to not be the snake place, given snakes' association with the symbols of health.
Yeah, the caduceus stuff. It's basically all connected to the patriarch, basically, of Western medicine, Hippocrates. And of course, it's value number 1: do not harm.
Interesting. Snakes being associated with health, despite how many venomous species there are.
It's complicated. In ancient Greece, snakes were considered just as a danger as much as, for example, a synonymous of wisdom, potentially, depending on the circumstances.
So I guess the idea was, greater risk, greater reward with them.
Again, we all have to remember the characterization as mostly villain when it comes to the snake was, of course, thanks to the Old Testament, and that was mostly, as people, rationalized, a simple way of warning children, don't go around snakes because they will bite you and they're poisonous and they're bad for you, so just tell them that they're responsible for fucking things up on the earth and, they will avoid them naturally. I also particularly love, because I've bothered to check it a bit recently and I plan to show it to Deji, the movie Noah, the one with Russell Crowe as the titular character, because they actually do raise the point when it comes to actually, having, since they were talking, during the movie they talk about also the other parts of the creation myth of Genesis, but when it comes to actually get also the couples of the animals on the ark, Noah's children actually point out and tell me, wait, why are we carrying also the snakes? Which of course is just hand-waved. That movie is bizarre, but interesting nonetheless. Oh, hello there.
You come here often?
Ow. This is probably more the hospital part, considering all the gurneys and wheelchairs going around.
That, or it was maybe a place that got turned into a safe haven when the attack
like a
started.
shelter, potentially, yes.
Children, do you have nothing better to do than to try and eat me?
It's really operating on the classic thought process of the mother spider is the sentient one, but the children are, more animalistic and dumb.
And I guess we can presume all of these are her kids.
Yes, mother of 1,000 sons, 1,000 children, without an actual other parent. Again, it all... Basically, Shelob is the grandmother of all this kind of trope, but there's also the Lovecraftian myth of, Shavngoraf, the goat of the woods.
Ah, yes, here are true facts about the demonic ancient spider from hell. You not to be confused with the tarantula or any of the monstrosities come from Australia. These tarantula, the tyrant spider queen from hell, bursts out lots of babies like she has no other business to do. And these babies are very hungry and never stop to think, hey, why am I going after such a hard meal? Couldn't I go for something more like, I don't know, go for even McDonald's instead of something that bites back? Oh, wait, no, I almost got him.
Okay, War, I heard about... This is probably the worst use of misusing a wheelchair I've ever seen in a video game. Jesus Christ. Alright, now you're in the main area. Behind that glyph is basically the boss, so you need to defeat 5 of those big spiders that we have seen. However, we do not have yet the means to actually defeat them, so that is quite the conundrum. What shall we do? Find a proper way to defeat them, which probably sure is buried somewhere here. And conveniently, they're also placed on your minimap, so you can find, go back into finding them if you need to. Again, classic Zelda set piece where it introduces these obstacles that you cannot properly deal with, teases that you're gonna find the solution to deal with and encourages you to keep going. You find it, you defeat them, and ultimately also defeat the boss with that. Okay, at this point I should make an Australia joke, but I'm pretty sure this is more overwhelming for them. Anyway, let's get the weapon. Thankfully, again, we have also one of those weapon containers here. There you go, a chain. Get over here! This is the equivalent of the hookshot, basically. So what the abyssal chain. So what you need to do for these big spiders is pull away their, chitinous external, and then start wailing on them. Easy as that.
I will say, in terms of arachnophobic settings, these guys are probably stylized enough that I could see some people dealing with them just fine, even with arachnophobia.
I mean, they are super aggressive, even compared to the other enemy types, and they're unique just for these dungeons, so I don't know.
That seems to be a common thing with game devs. Whatever there's spiders, make them some of the most aggressive enemies in the game. It's like, hey, I thought we were supposed to learn that not all spiders are bad, but a lot of these games like to make spiders some of the biggest assholes.
Well, I think the thought process is that if the spiders were big enough, the spiders are ultimately similar to some specific animal with a primary predator, mentality of not just for food but also to catch in general, So if they were big enough to potentially consider themselves able to hunt down, creatures of human size, they would take that opportunity. Not necessarily out of malice, that depends on the writers, but, just because they can. It's similar to the idea that if another animal that normally would not, predate on us, like say a house cat, would be big enough to be the equivalent of, say, a lion or a lynx, they would technically, try to hunt us for a meal.
I swear, one of the most commonly agreed animals most people agreed is bad news are ants. Like, with ants, it's not even a case of, them being big enough. A lot of scientists theorize that if ants had, access to weapons that they could use, they would possibly destroy the Earth, given how militaristic they can be.
Frankly, I'm just reminded instead of that Fairly Odd Parents episode where, because of a set of circumstances, TV manages to make cockroaches sentient, so they discover that they're immune to the atomic bomb and they start developing nuclear weapons of their own to defeat humanity.
But of course, One wonders, why did evolution deem the cockroach the one that needed to be that invincible?
I don't know, maybe, you know, Mother Nature has a sense of humor and we don't have
Or,
enough,
well, I mean,
we don't have enough
cockro-
IQ to actually understand it,
I mean,
don't know.
cockroaches do have a bit of a size disadvantage, so I guess Mother Nature wanted to even the playing field a bit.
They're arguably bigger than ants, but they can survive more than ants. Although, to be fair, from what I understand, you can still basically squash a cockroach, so... Isn't that ironic? It can survive a nuclear blast, but if you step on it or smash it, that's usually it done still.
So yeah, you can use the Abyssal Chain on all vine surfaces and these context-sensitive grappling hooks, grappling beams basically, and you can move from one to the other. So basically that's your traversal method for this place, hence why it resembles, you know, the idea of a wind temple, the idea of moving through the air. So now it's just basically a matter of trying to find back the spiders one by one. Some of them will come naturally to you, like this guy, while others will need to be properly baited instead. And once you're actually locked in them, it's a matter of kill or be killed. Ow. It also doesn't help that these big-ass spiders do not really have a lot of recoil when you hit them compared to the other enemies, so it can create a bit of a problem because you cannot interrupt them from starting a combo. Alright, 2 down, 3 to go.
Alright then.
If I recall correctly, for this one, you have to... This was the one that was stalking you from the ceiling, and you need to basically bait it to go down.
Or really take the practical approach of just stomping on them.
I mean, as long as it works. Also, yeah, the spiders, unsurprisingly, can also climb the same walls that you can, so you cannot, potentially you cannot outrun all of them.
Would be hilarious if they couldn't climb.
Alright, there it is. Let's see if I can bait it down. There you go. There's also this weird delay after you do the freeze combo while in the chaos form. Possibly to not let you spam through it, but it still feels very, very weird. Oh, so now you're registering that the big spider is dead, not when I actually kill it. Weird, because the other case is he did it immediately, but even where there were other enemies around.
How wonky.
Maybe because, you know, those enemies, particular skeletal enemies, spawned alongside, you know, the big spider, so maybe it was because of that. I don't know.
Way to hook shot, Link.
Thankfully it's not registered.
Oh.
Yeah, thankfully it's not tied to finding a piece of wood. So, again, it's a bit more context sensitive, so, you know, was tied to a thing around these era video games where it was a bit of bells and whistles for something that was much more telegraphed and with less freedom than previous generations of games had. But I argue it still works relatively fine here. We're not in PS4 era of heavily scripted surfaces, you know, to climb and stuff like that. There you go. The last of the main big spider. There's also another one after these, but you'll be able to see for that. Also, as the input noted, the Abyssal Chain can actually let you perform the get over here move from Scorpion and pull an enemy towards you, but for the bigger one it will be the opposite, or will be catapulted towards them. This is not a bad thing in itself, because, you know, you still want to get close to the enemy potentially, but again, be forewarned that it doesn't go potentially the way you want. This is also me using a bit of the toughing skin power-up. Again, it's useful to avoid being flinched out while doing a combo, but not really worth on the long run. And again, it's too expensive. Anyway, with 4 main spiders gone, now we need to, you know, find a big one, which probably won't be long, of course. This one is covered, the entire carapace is covered in the orichalcum-like substance. So we need to find a way to destroy it. Well, getting close to it because we have the weapon to destroy it. Basically, we need to feed the motherfucker. Unfortunately, we don't, much unlike Link, we don't have bombs, so instead we need to wait until it starts sucking. Oh, ow.
Is this one of those cases where we have to feed it to basically make it way too much?
Not necessarily, but more like keep it busy, so we can actually circle on the back and start beating his ass, literally.
Lovely.
There we go. Ow.
That's gonna leave a mark.
It's a roller coaster of emotions, you can tell.
I wonder, would spiders be less violent if they just had access to therapy?
I'm gonna say no. Reminder that, again, Shadowby is the last descendant of the Middle-earth equivalent of Cthulhu, you know? Literally,
well, I don't know.
Literally an eldritch being that was entirely devoted into consuming light just to satiate herself.
I don't know, Tio. One of our Lord of the Rings commentaries implies that she actually has a good personality when you get to know her. And it was all actually part of her valiant plan just to scare Frodo and Sam to going in the right direction. God, I love the fact that they actually did indeed try to commit to adding that to the lore.
There we go.
Although, he's bleeding out of his ass. What a way to die.
What a rotten way to die. So yeah, with all the spider glyphs gone, we can actually go pay a visit to the Mother, the last major of the chosen ones.
Let me guess, this one can talk.
Well, yeah, as you can imagine, considering she wants stories, and I basically tell you in advance. Also, is this a sewer level? Really? You? Jesus Christ!
They got in our sewer level. Wait, hold on. But I thought we already had a sewer level.
No, we had a subway level, which, as I mentioned, is the first stage in the life cycle of a sewer, technically. But I guess we bothered to sneak in one for the lads at the last second for the hospital level, I guess. But just to mention in advance, this last chosen one is also gonna be voiced by Lani Minella because they got enough mileage out of there, so they were like, yeah, just do another, old lady, voice for another chosen one. Why not? Not sure.
It'll be all right. We'll put a filter. Did they put a filter over this one too? I presume.
You'll be able to hear. Like, was Suzanne Blakesley not available or too expensive? Like, she was doing Kingdom Hearts at the time.
I guess to be fair, Lani Minella is one of the goats of voice acting.
Oh no, but they already had one. I guess they were, wanted to be a bit not cheap, but to not spend too much expense in terms of using too much of a different voice cast. Mostly because they probably spent a lot for Mark Hamill, I guess.
I'm guessing maybe it was a case also where Lani Minella was versatile enough they figured, hey, can you double up with this? Sure, fam.
As a reminder, again, the OTHQ Nordic, while this was a big game changer potentially for the OTHQ Nordic, sorry, the old THQ, my bad. They still were not one of the super big publishers like, EA, Capcom, or Konami, or Sega. They were ranking a bit lower on the totem pole. So
I suppose also
they
to
did
be
not have
fair,
infinite money for that. Go on.
I suppose also to be fair, these bosses, these chosen ones we face, get like what, 1 or 2 scenes in a fight, so I can maybe see they figured, okay, if Lani can do a different enough voice, that'll work, essentially. Like, it's not like these chosen ones, have, like, Shakespearean levels of dialogue, or, like, entire levels where they're constantly talking to show off their character.
I mean,
from what I can regard, it's
to hear how she sounds like and everything. Frankly, I'm reminded of that Nintendo 64 Duke Nukem game, 0 Hour, where every single male character is voiced by John St. John, and every single female character by Lani Minella. It gets uncanny very quickly.
Please tell me they were at least clever enough to maybe just factor in a joke with that.
Not really. Like,
it's weird because the game has so many other meta jokes.
There are some instances where you can argue they have clones of, not clones, but robotic, evil clones of Duke, but they're not like the only male NPCs that voiced by John St. John, because it's a time-traveling story. Duke Nukem gets to fight people like General Custer or Jack the Ripper, and they get voice lines and they're voiced by John St. John, but it's not, if you have played something like Half-Life Opposing Force, you heard him already.
I just find it a little weird that they wouldn't at least joke about that, because Duke Nukem Forever is chock full of meta jokes, especially about the making of the game and how long
I talked about the Nintendo 64 game, 0 Hour. Forever is the more recent one.
Oh, never mind. In that case, I'm kind of not as surprised with the N64 game kind of skimping there. I mean, okay, that's not to say N64 games never had expansive casts, but if I recall correctly, voice acting was still kind of not quite in its infancy, but let's say it's adolescence.
It was a bit rare to find the Nintendo 64 games that had a very consistent voice, voice presence, games with a lot of voice acting. The closest were of course, the video games made by Rare, like, I think Bubsy, not Bubsy, sorry. I think Conker's Better Day is probably the Nintendo 64 game that has the most voice acting in it. Because, the Venture games obviously have just the grunting, sound bites. Mario 64 has very simple voice clips for Mario, Princess Toadstool and Bowser. The Zelda games have some level of voice acting, but not a lot, and even then, it's just a couple of small voice clips, or sound effects. So, trying to think. I guess it's also because, when it came to storing, enough onto the hardware, when it came to the competition, the PS1 had the advantage of CDs having more space, which had the idea of, quote-unquote, better quality in terms of music and a lot more space for voice clips. Sony demonstrated that kind of sorta with their Japan studio Final Fantasy RPG knockoff, The Legend of Dragoon, which has one of the distinctions of being one of the few JRPGs with a multi-5 language dub. An honor that, at least in my country, shared only with Lost Odyssey and more recently Final Fantasy 16.
Lovely.
Even for future RPGs made by published by Sony, like Rogue Galaxy, the Wild Arms series, and Wayne Chronicles, they still usually kept English and at best Japanese, as far as I know. Alright, time to deal with the Queen, Sirifa.
I'm sure she'll be nice and reasonable for once.
Truly.
Look, it was all just a prank when I had you wrapped up in my webs. I wasn't gonna eat you or feed on your blood and memories.
Yes, you were.
Horseman. There are so many stories about you. You have killed 3 of the chosen.
So this is not even yellow, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's behind me, isn't she?
To slay the final Tower Guardian. To take my heart.
What could possibly go wrong?
To bear blood. Why his accursed power beats within our breast. It is not the tower that the chosen protect, Horseman. Our charge is to prevent Samael.
Oh, what a shock! It turns out Samael might be the real bad guy. But no, not our good, trusting friend Samuel.
Him, you will face a threat greater than all the chosen combined.
I did not come for your counsel.
You know, maybe I'd have listened more to you if, you hadn't wrapped me up in webs to begin with, just saying.
I love it. The moment the war says, yeah, I don't care, she drops the pretense and wants to kill him.
Yeah, it's like, even if she is telling the truth, something tells me that she probably would have tried to eat us anyway.
So here's how it's gonna work. Sirifa tends to teleport around. Yes, it's a spider that can teleport. Just roll
Beautiful.
with it. On the far edges of these, whatever this all is supposed to be. So you need to use the abyssal chain to literally, propel yourself in order to get to her. Actually, that's my line. The teleportations do have a bit of a delay so that it allows you potentially to dodge in time, but you need to get, the rhythm on your own in order to understand when it's best to, dash. God damn it. You can also, you may notice that you also have an icon popping up that if you hold, I think, select, or the equivalent of it, the watcher will give you a tip. Again, it's the equivalent of Navi, the whole, hey, listen. But thankfully Mark Hamill is not chiming in every 2 seconds, to tell you.
What, you wouldn't want to hear Mark Hamill's angelic voice every 0.5 seconds of your life?
I can live without it, being bad, so.
To quote Goro Majima, you're too kind.
I think I mentioned in part 2 already, but I do wonder if this is one of those roles that Mark, while, still did it professionally, but don't really remember doing, considering, how relatively long ago it was. And as just to spoil in advance, so the Watcher is not really a recurring character in the other games, in case you're wondering.
Oh, what a shame. I mean, okay, if I'm to be somewhat fair to Mark Hamill, I wonder if maybe the fact he forgot about Goro Majima was the fact that, 1, they never called him back to do any of the sequels, and 2, maybe he was just absolutely swamped with work. Also, to be fair, knowing how voice acting goes on the side of things, sometimes the voice actors are in almost as much the same dark that we are, in that sometimes voice actors will be brought to act for a character that all they know is just the name. They may not even know what it is. Like, Roger Craig Smith went on to admit that when he recorded for Chris in Resident Evil 5, he didn't know that was going to be Resident Evil 5, essentially.
Yeah, for potential spoiler contracts and NDA.
So, I'm willing to believe that Mark Hamill probably didn't remember Goro Majima, maybe because it was seeped in that kind of, uber secrecy or whatnot.
Also, just foretelling for people who only saw scattered clips, as a whole, the English dub for the first two Yakuza game kinda sucks. Bad voice direction and all, because it did involve the talented people, but it really was very incompetent.
Goofy, I think, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Wasn't the voice of Goofy in
Bill
that
Farmer?
game?
Yes, if I recall correctly.
And I think he's still in the series as well.
Alright, on our way back, let's get to do the thing that I mentioned a few parts ago and stop this other tower that we couldn't, this drill. So we will unlock a secret passage that allows us to get one collectible that I noticed previously.
It's such a shame Bubsy did not make any spider puns as far as I know, because that would have been so perfect to insert here after we beat her.
Yeah. He's played Makoto Date, I think it is.
Yes.
Since the first game, and he's been in the most recent Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties game as well.
I will say, all joking aside, I do think Mark Hamill was a great pick to play the English voice of Goro Majima. He has that nice manic energy, and I do think that he did good for what he was given. Like, I'm willing to bet a lot of the problems with those dubs were like the voice direction, because I think the voice actor. So, part of me does wish we lived in a timeline where the dubs had gone over better and they hadn't abandoned them, especially since we're back to having dubs now, because, hey, surprise, surprise, it kind of helps out for accessibility for people to have an English dub or whatnot.
Alright, let's check this treasure also while we're at it. We get Strife's offering, a power, not a weapon, tied to one of War's brother, which helps you with the gun. A bit too late for that, basically, but hey, what can you do about it? Dream, shut the fuck up and let me get back to Samael.
Is he implying that he and Salifia kind of...
He's a merchant. He only cares about exchanging souls. Anyway, let's give the last art.
To the guy the spider warned us about. Although, to be fair, he is still our best bet.
We still need to access the tower anyway.
You lied to me about the Chosen. They never guarded the tower.
What does it matter? Our deal wasn't for ancient history. I promised you the tower.
Then why did you lie?
Yeah, take your bloody thing.
That's good power!
Part of a complete breakfast.
Did it amuse you to deny me what's rightfully mine? With my powers restored, I am like unto a god.
Oh goody, he has a god complex.
Before you drew another breath, I could. But I too have a code by which I do business. Besides...
It's like, yeah, I could totally kick your butt, but whatever, I'll let you go, loser.
Again, someone is an interesting character.
I do think there's definitely some setup for something going on, because why would he feel the need to lie about the tower if there wasn't?
Well, I do not approve of the company my master keeps.
Okay, if even a demon is against the company someone keeps, you have to wonder, how much did you mess up?
Soon enough.
You trust him? Who knows where in the nine hells this portal will take us?
I mean, at this point...
I mean, what other choice do we have?
Meet again.
No, what? Don't.
So anyway, see you for the next part where we see where that portal takes us.
So yeah.
Lovely. Ta-ta.